announcements?
We have pints for polio. People need to buy.
Oh yeah, Pints for Polio is out there too. Yeah, you got to buy your tickets.
So you can get your shirt size.
Yeah. Is the date already up? That the guaranteed shirt size?
Brittany corrected it.
Oh.
It did. If you went on, it said the sale was ended, but she's gone on and corrected that.
Okay. So do it soon because you won't be guaranteed the right shirt size if you don't get in there soon.
Right. That's the thing. But you have to order the shirt actually this week, I think.
Yeah. All right. Dennis Ubler, our past president, past district governor, past everything. He's going to talk about It's a Beautiful World.
It is.
It will be when the election's over.
And I couldn't wait to hear this introduction. Anyway, today I'm going to talk about, the world being a beautiful place. And I think everyone in this room is grateful. I know I certainly am. And I've got so many things to be grateful for, as everyone does. This past Sunday, I went with my son and daughter-in-law and watched my oldest granddaughter play college softball for the first time. Watching children grow up and become, young adults, and knowing that you had just a little part in that is just a wonderful thing to be grateful for. And we've got so much to be grateful for. Would everyone agree? Yes. Before I start my presentation, I've got something I want to share, some big news I want to share that this club is going to be grateful for. So back in about February, Kathleen Stout came here and was the program, and she talked about different global grants that were happening in this district. Anybody else remember when she was here and did that? John does? Okay. Well, about 2 weeks after that, Ben Hoffman came to me and said, Dennis, look at this idea. He said, I'm negotiating a lease on some land that I have. There's a company that wants to come in and put a solar field on my land. And I've been negotiating this lease for years, but we're getting close. He said, what do you think about the idea if I could get them to give Rotary $5,000 a year for 4 years? Could we take that and use that, somewhere around the world, to do good? And I said, absolutely. So I started making some phone calls. A couple months later, Ben says, hey, look, I just changed this. I'm going to ask them for $10,000 now. And the other $10,000 when they start to generate revenue, because he said it could be 3 to 5 years before they start generating revenue. So Ben reached out, negotiated in this lease for us to get $10,000 now to use in a global grant. And $10,000, and we're not sure when that'll happen. We're thinking somewhere 3 to 5 years. So Ben, I thank you. Our club at the last board meeting agreed to contribute $500 toward this global grant. Carlisle Rotary Club is giving $500. The Passport Club is giving $500. York East is giving $500, which puts us at $12,000. I think there's 2 clubs in Kenya that are each putting some money in. And, I'll be reaching out to other clubs, because the more money we get from clubs in our district, the more gets matched by the district and the Rotary Foundation. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Rotary Foundation today. But that money that the district matches. So let's just say we have $12,000 from our club and clubs in that 10. The district matches 100% of that. That money that the district matches doesn't come from district dues. That money comes from the foundation. So when we get this match from the district and we get the foundation's match, all of that comes from the foundation. And where does that money come from? It comes from Rotarians that contribute to the foundation. But anyway, I really want to recognize Ben for having the idea of, look, I've got this negotiation with this big corporation, and not afraid to say, hey, how about contributing some money to Rotary? And from talking with Ben, it sounded like it wasn't a struggle, that negotiation. I mean, the rest of the negotiation was, but getting that, them to give that money, I think sounded pretty easy. So this has been going on for quite a few months. We have the money. Actually, the Carlisle Rotary Club and E-Town are working together. The Carlisle Rotary Club's foundation has the $10,000, and the two clubs together will be going together to do the grant proposal. So anyway, Ben, thank you. I appreciate what you've done. Okay, so I'm grateful for Ben and for his thinking about Rotary, his thinking about other parts of the world, and what can we do to help other people in other parts of the world. But I want to start off with, the world's a beautiful place. Can you see this from over there? Okay, great. So in this photo of the Earth, you can see there sort of the bottom center looks like athletic fields. I mean, this is just beautiful. It looks a lot like E-Town. And it's such a wonderful place. Would you all agree that Elizabethtown, Lancaster County is just a great place to live? Well, I'm driving around looking at some houses in E-Town, and I come across this one. Does anybody recognize this house? Does that look familiar to anybody? Kevin?
That's Sean's house.
That's Sean McCoach's house. That's our president. Gosh, that's where our president lives.
You were really driving around.
I was. Well, you just wait and see. And so I took that picture, and then I went next door. I said, that looks very nice too. Anybody know whose house that is? Oh, that's our past president's house. So our past president. And I kept driving around, and I came across this one. It has this funny green flag out there on the porch.
Against HOA policy, I might.
So that's Glenn's house. I want you to think about your house. Except for Glenn and Jeff, but the rest of you, think about your house. Think about where you live. Think about what it looks like when you drive up. Aren't you grateful for what you have? Now, I drove by another house, and some of us, like myself, like to live in the woods. Actually, I took that off of Google Earth. It's amazing what you can do on Google Earth. That's a photo from Google Earth of my house. But anyway, it's a great area. And outside of this area, we've got so many places we can go, like Philadelphia. How many of you have ever been to Philadelphia? I know everyone's been to Philadelphia. What's important here is I want you to see 1,700,000 people live in Philadelphia. Remember that number. That number's important. 1,700,000 people live in Philadelphia. And, if you go to Philadelphia, you might go downtown in the summertime, and you might sit out at a table on the sidewalk. And you might have, lunch, you might have dinner. Looks like that was a beautiful day. How many of you have ever eaten, out on the sidewalk in a town anywhere? It's just, a fun thing to do. So we live in a beautiful area. We've got Philadelphia that's not far. We've got so many places, so many things we can do. We have so much to be grateful for. But I want to take you to another place on this beautiful earth. I want to take you to Pakistan, the largest slum in the world. 2,400,000 people. What was the population in Philadelphia? 1.7 in Philadelphia. This slum has a population of 2.4. Imagine. Now think about where you live, and think about growing up, and think about your families and raising children. And then imagine if you were there. So if you were there, this is what it might look like. You know, this is a mother and her children. Oh, and that's her house behind her. It looks a little different from mine and yours. And then I went and checked out the next largest slum in the world, Mexico, 1.2 million people. Now, it's not quite as big as Philadelphia. 1.2 million people live in this slum. And if you get down on the street in the slum, this is what you might see. This might be, where you're raising your family, where you're raising children. And then I went to India, which is the third largest slum in the world, and it only has 1 million people. Now, what I like about this photo is obviously we see the slum, we see tarps on roofs, we see whatever it is holding the tarps down. Okay, looks like pretty good construction. In the background, we see the city. Now, let me ask you, what do you think divides the slum from the city? What do you think physically divides the slum from the city? Any idea? What, Debbie?
A wall.
A wall, a fence. I guess those people in the slum don't want the people from the city coming over there and taking anything. And then and around this slum, it's got this beautiful river. I mean, you could be living here, and right outside the back of your residence, right outside the back of your house, you could hop in and go for a swim. What do you think that river smells like? What do you think that smells like going through the slum? And then when you get down, in the slum and you see some of the children, this is what you might see. And I think, when I see this, I think about these children, and I think about, what do they have? What do they have to be grateful for? Are they getting an education? What is life like? And what would my life be like if that's where I got planted on this earth? And then I went to Kenya. Only 700,000 people live in this slum. Now, you can see there's a lot of tin here, and I really can't tell where the heck you walk through between buildings, but, apparently you do. But again, we're talking 700,000 people. Now, in those 4 slums, how many people, how many millions of people live in these conditions? And I really want you to imagine, if you had to live there, not in E-Town, but if you had to live in a slum. And then I found this photo, which I think really is meaningful. Give us opportunity, not sympathy. And you think about the people in those slums, what is the opportunity? Now, I'll tell you, I'm a very big advocate for education in areas like those slums. Because education is generational change. It's not changing one person. It's generational change. Because when you educate someone that wouldn't have been, they have the ability to educate their children, who can educate their children. So to me, education is very, very, very important. And many of you, I'm sure, have heard the tale of the starfish, but I know not everyone can read that. So Debbie, would you read that so everyone can hear?
So it all started when a young girl was walking along a beach upon which thousands of starfish had been washed up during a terrible storm. When she came to each starfish, she would pick it up and throw it back into the ocean. People watched her with amusement. She had been doing this for some time when a man approached her and said, "Little girl, why are you doing this? Look at this beach. You can't save all these starfish. You can't begin to make a difference." The girl seemed crushed, suddenly deflated. But after a few moments, She bent down, picked up another starfish, and hurled it as far as she could into the ocean. Then she looked up at the man and replied, "Well, I made a difference for that one." The old man looked at the girl inquisitively and thought about what she had done and said, inspired, he joined the little girl in throwing starfish back into the sea. Soon others joined and all the starfish were saved.
Thank you. So I saw this and I really wanted to share because I think this really is what the Rotary Foundation is about. It's about everyone pitching in and helping. So I'm going to ask, and I'm going to give you some more, I've got some more things I want to share, but please help just one. Give to the Rotary Foundation. Soon others joined and all the starfish were saved. We saw the slums and we heard about the global grant that we're planning to do in Ghana, where we're going to provide medical equipment for this hospital that's, I think, complete or almost complete, to provide medical care for people who have none. I also saw this quote that I wanted to share. The biggest obstacle to serving others is not our ability, but our willingness. Think about that. And we were talking about how grateful we are for all that we have. Now, some of you may be thinking, I give to many charitable organizations. And I'm going to share my story. A few years after I bought Hornathus Insurance Agency, Bart remembers those days, long time ago, right? Yeah. Long time ago. It was a real little insurance agency, and Bart knows. And I'm trying to grow this business. And, it's not easy, but, it's growing little by little by little. And when you own a business, you get requests for money, for donations from all kinds of organizations, right, Bart? Pretty much weekly, somebody's saying, hey, will you give? Will you give? Will you give? And after a couple of years, I was at a point where I thought, okay, I can. And so someone would ask me, and I give them $100. And someone else would ask me, and I'd give them $100. And someone else would ask me, and I'd give them $100. And someone else asked, and I gave them $100. And I'm sure they were all good causes. Okay? But I just gave money out without thinking. And then one day, someone from our club that worked at Elizabethtown College came to me and said, Dennis, the college has a scholarship program for business students. And it's a $1,000 sponsorship, which this club supports. I think still does today, every year, $1,000 to this scholarship for a business student. So I gave the $1,000 the first year. And sometime in that year, I get invited to come to a luncheon for like an hour, hour and a half maybe. A box lunch, opportunity for me to hear a short program, 10 minutes, Bart, and Bart has participated. And then you get to meet the student that you sponsored, that got your scholarship. And so I sat down, with this young man. We ate our box lunch. We talked. I found out, about him. I found out what he wanted to do after, college, and I felt good. And the next year I gave $1,000. And the next year I get this invitation, and I show up, but the student that received my $1,000, I don't know, wasn't there. So I sat and ate the box lunch by myself, and I forget who the head was of that department, but they come over and apologize that, hey, I don't know where your student is, but, sorry that they're not here. Okay. So next year I get the $1,000, get the invitation, I go. Again, no student. Now the interesting thing is, I didn't really know that student, but I knew the student's parents pretty well. They lived in Hummelstown, had a whole lot more money than I did. A whole lot more money than I did. They did not need my $1,000. this young man was going to go to college, whether he had my $1,000 or not. But guess what? Instead of mom and dad paying $1,000, I got to. That hit me. At that point, I said, done. Before I give another penny, I'm going to find out where it's going. And I want to know what the impact is. But what is the impact of your charity? Are we just making it easy, or are we making it possible? That was eye-opening for me. So I still give, and I've given a lot to the Rotary Foundation because I know what happens with that money. So how do you find out what percent of your money makes an impact? The Rotary Foundation has received the highest rating from Charity Navigator for 15 consecutive years. So if you want to check on any charity, just Google Charity Navigator, and you can search on any charity that you want to. The rating reflects Charity Navigator's assessment of how the foundation uses donation, sustains its programs and service, and practices good governance and openness. So I just saw this that Rotary posted. This was on Facebook just a couple days ago. And I thought, okay, I want to throw this in here because it talks about the impact that Rotary Foundation and Rotarians make around the world. And the bottom it says, every minute of every day, Rotary feeds someone, houses someone, vaccinates someone, performs surgery on someone, comforts someone, provides clean water to someone. Glenn, you've experienced in Zambia, right? Every day, there are Rotary clubs that have projects all around the world changing people's lives. So how big is the impact? The Rotary Foundation global grants have been awarded in 226 countries around the world. 226 countries around the world. Soon others joined, and all the starfish were saved. We can't save all of those children in all of those slums, but boy, we could sure make a difference. And we're going to do that in Ghana. We're going to make a difference in Ghana, in that slum, by helping to provide medical care. So if you don't know how to contribute to the Rotary Foundation, it's easy. See me. I'll be glad. You'll be glad you made a difference. We are Rotary, and I'll take questions. So there's a form passed out. Yeah.
One of them, the colored one, gives you 3 options of how to donate to the Rotary Foundation. We've talked about this before, but you can still write a check and mail it directly. You can go online and set it up and do a one-time donation, or you can go online and set it up that, once a year they take $100 out, or whatever you decide to do. So you don't have to think about it anymore after that. And if you're doing the online, this color, a black and white one, just gives you a little more detail on how to do that. And if you have any questions, Dennis will help you.
Yeah, I'll help you fill out the form if you need. If you don't know your Rotary number, I have them. I can help you with that. And, a couple of years ago, for a number of years, people in the club signed up to have $25 a quarter added to their dues. And at one point, the board said, this is really not the way we should be doing it. And so it ended. And so now it's up to each individual, each Rotarian, to make that contribution. So if in the past you've given $25 a quarter, if you've added that to your dues, this Rotary Direct makes it really, really easy just to have quarterly, $25 come out of your checking account or charged to a credit card. And I know I do both of those with different bills and expenses I have every month. Or as Glenn said, you can still write a check to the Rotary Foundation and mail it in. But this form makes it really, really easy just to get on a regular routine basis of giving to the foundation. And, I think everyone here knows why. Why? What the foundation does. And the last thing that I'm done. The Rotary Foundation does not decide how to spend the money. The Rotary Foundation does not decide. You and I do. Individual Rotarians. So this global grant that we're planning to do in Ghana to celebrate our 100th anniversary, Greg and Denise Grove have been over there. And they said there's a hospital being built and they need help with equipment. So it was a Rotarian that came up with the idea as to what we want to do and where we want to do it. And so this is going to turn into over $100,000 global grant, from this club. But it was two Rotarians, husband and wife. It can be one. It can be, any one of you that knows of something, a need somewhere around the world, somewhere that we can help, and share it with the club. And if there's buy-in from the club, that's where it starts. So it does not start at the Rotary Foundation. It starts down here with each one of us. So any questions? Yes, Bart.
What's the difference between having Polaris donations and a society?
Oh, Paul Harris Society? Okay. So Paul Harris Society, when you commit to that, you're committing to $1,000 every year. Forever. Yep. You're committing to, I'm going to give $1,000 to the foundation every year. Instead of giving $100 a year, that's what the Paul Harris Society is. So unless you want to give $1,000 a year, don't check that box. Any other questions? Yeah, Dave.
The foundation has contributed from this club and everyone around the world. I have money going annually to, but if I don't put somebody's name on that donation, it sits there. It doesn't get out to be used. That's my understanding.
No, you might not, if you don't put somebody's name, you don't get recognition if they don't know where it came from, but they're going to use the money. You may not get the recognition.
Yeah.
But they're trust me, they're going to put the money to good use.
Well, I would like to round off those. I had 5 or 6 that I've already given.
Okay.
But I'd like to make that whatever balance comes up every year go into that kind of a program.
So if you donate money, if you wrote a check, it's going to hit your account. We'll be able to do a report that shows how much money you gave to the foundation.
Okay.
It doesn't just come in and go anonymous.
Right.
They'll be able to cross-reference your name, but you should know what your Rotary number, your ID number is. It makes it a little easier to put that on the check. Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? Ralph.
You can also put Rotary in your will, so you have to wait.
Thank you.
Die. They get a gallon of money, but it's possible.
But they know it's coming. You're right, and I've done that. And there's a couple ways to do that. But thank you, Ralph. Anything else? Any other questions or any other? What's that? Arch Clump. So yes. So there's different recognition, and there's Arch Clump Society for people that give $250,000 or more. And in our district, we currently have 4 Rotarians in our district that are Arch Clump Society members that have given $250,000 or more.
If you go to the headquarters in Chicago, they have a beautiful area. Yeah, well, Greater Chicago. They have a beautiful area at their headquarters, and it's real modern. You can hit the video monitors, and all the people that are in that group, you can see a video of them and why they gave, and it's fascinating. You would look at some of the people and go, oh my gosh, how did they have the money to give? You know, like a school teacher who was, never married her whole career and ended up donating $6 million to the Rotary Foundation. It's fascinating to hear all those stories. You can see them all. Pretty cool.
So anyway, I just flipped back here to Glenn's house. Just to remind everyone what all we have to be grateful for. And, if we can give just a little, I know the good that it does, through the Rotary Foundation. Anything else? Yes, Ralph.
Bring us up to date on, a number of years ago, a bunch of us went to Ecuador for a medical mission.
Right.
I think it was a $30,000 grant. And there were people there, a person from Japan and Denmark and a variety of places. We all did things together. And there have been other programs like that. But there was a grant. There was a part of that whole thing. And there were people on the ground doing stuff and training.
Right.
So it was sustainable.
Right.
There's a 4 or 5 year sustainability
Yep.
plan that has to be a part of it before it's accepted, and there has to be boots on the ground, a local Rotary club that processes all that. And that's the way I understood it used to be. And I just bring us up to date on those mission trips. And
Right.
do they still happen? Are they connected with the grant and all that?
Yeah, so Glenn was just on one last year to Zambia. How many?
There was 50 of us, 52 maybe, from all over the world, same thing. And exactly the same situation. They were training their doctors, their nurses there. The really cool thing about the one we went on, it was the largest training grant ever. It was $250,000. Medical, eye, and dental all at the same time, which is kind of confusing, but it was a lot. But there was a doctor from another African country, I forget what country he was from, who he's a doctor now, but Rotary went to his village when he was a kid. And that inspired him to get in the medical field. And now he was on a Rotary mission doing the same thing, which, if you really think about that, that's crazy that happened. That a kid from a very poor area became a doctor and now he's doing the same thing. Yeah, exactly. But they just sent out, it's the 4th year in a row that all those doctors went out. It was just publicized recently. They went out, they do all those cleft palate surgeries. They just left like a couple weeks ago to go, I don't remember where, on another one of them. There was like 60 or so doctors that went on that trip. They're there now, I think. But they're still doing them. If you go to Rotary International, you can see them. Our district, we don't have one scheduled right now, except ours coming up.
There's a couple others in process.
So we really only get to hear about the local stuff, but they're doing them all the time.
And again, so there's two different things. Ralph and Glenn are both talking about vocational training teams, where part of that has to be education. What we're going to do in Ghana, we probably actually, when I was in Kenya, I met a doctor, retired doctor, who wants to go to Ghana and help train on this equipment when we get it there. So there might be a doctor from Kenya going to Ghana, on our global grant. But one of the things that Ralph said is very important is every global grant must show sustainability. It used to be that a Rotary Club could go in, examine eyes, and give eyeglasses and leave. Okay? Or they could go in and they could drill a well. This is a better example. You could go into a community that doesn't have running water, and you could drill a well to give them clean water and leave. But there was no sustainability. When something happened to the well, no one there knew how to fix it. And now they were back in the same situation. So every grant now must show sustainability, which is, I think, very beneficial. But yeah, we probably are not going to be doing a training mission. It'll probably be just a global grant, but not a vocational training team. Any other questions?